Regional roundup, and just looking at the harvest 22. In the main, I think it was realistically a good harvest from the point of view of timings. Felt like everything was ahead of the game a good 7 to 10 days. Yields wise, would argue hovering around the 5-year average. In all honesty, there's some quite big yields seen and some a lot lower, namely depending on soil type and moisture availability at early establishment. Oilseed rate probably the one that showed a benefit from this recent harvest. Moving to this autumn and considering planting, we've obviously got to consider those input costs that are on the rise, and arguably when considering what we're going to put in, we need to look at what's going to give us the best returns for our ground and our scenario. So from that, I would say consider when your planting time is, particularly with cereals. If you're looking at going in sort of now, this early to mid-September, we will get that warmer soils. We will get hopefully some moisture availability, although that's very dependent on recent rainfall, which will help get the establishment, help get the crop away, which is great. But then we do need to consider weed control and perhaps disease control going forward. So it's how we manage the input costs in the main. As far as early weed control, we do have options within the Adama portfolio, the likes of products such as Tower, which allow us a pre or early post application for your difficult grass weeds and broadleaf weeds, particularly annual meadowgrass. Does give you the chance to get that flexibility and get the crop away. Considering other crops, I mean the oilseed rape that's gone in has gone into very dry conditions. And realistically, it's a bit of a waiting game. That's through. Feels like the flea beetle is now on a march, so one to be aware of and consider. Again, delaying if you haven't gone in already, just to get rid of those first few flushes of the flea beetle. Speaking of flushes, there's also good timing with regards the volunteer cereals coming through. Product Falcon, a useful option against volunteer cereals, as well as other grass weeds. Consider using different rates depending on your target. Those quick to emerge and quite vigorous targets will need slightly higher rates. We have a useful rate card on the website, so please feel free to visit the Adama UK website and download the rate card, just a case of searching the Falcon in the top and finding the document. But that's useful to give you the guidance across a range of different weeds.
Hi, I'm Kirsty. I'm going to be doing a regional update for the West. Harvest finished in reasonable time this year, and despite the dry weather that we've been having, AHDB have been reporting good yields across the board, with either at or above our 5-year averages. As we move into August and September, the dry weather didn't really stop, even over in the west, which is usually considered wetter. And we've had a mix of approaches in regards to oilseed rape drilling. Some farmers have opted to plant in between the small amounts of rainfall that we have had. Others are waiting for more moisture. The rate that has been planted has established well, and there's little flea beetle damage being reported. As we're moving into September, potatoes will start to be lifted, and the field currently in front of me has already been defoliated. We had some much needed rainfall over the weekend, which will really help to start prepare the ground as we move into autumn cultivations. So hopefully this will continue as we move on to drilling and we can have a good successful season.
Hi, and so how can I give an update on the eastern region without mentioning the current drought? Some areas in the region have had sort of no rainfall for the past 3 months, while some areas towards the Cambridgeshire direction have had a decent amount of rainfall. At the moment in the field, it's oilseed rape drilling with some crops gone in where there's been a decent amount of rainfall and the crop is up and away. But right on time, over August bank holiday, the cabbage stem flea beetle has started to make its appearance. Some people still holding off on oilseed rape drilling to wait for the rain that's going to fall this week, hopefully. In terms of harvest has been a very calm affair this year. Very little slowing it down in terms of weather conditions. with yields being rather variable due to land type and rainfall, but in general yields have been above the 5-year average.
Harvest 2022 has been one of the easiest in living memory in Scotland. Winter wheat yields are very good to excellent. Specific weights mid to high 70s. Barley yields are very good, although screenings are a bit high on some of the lighter land that burnt off in the middle of summer. Spring barley, molten spring barley, early indications are that N levels are low, which would have expected in a dry summer. Moisture levels, grain coming in at 11%, so taking pressure off of drying costs for farmers. Winter oilseed rape, early crops are at 3 to 4 leaf already, and flea beetle damage is minimal. We had a bit of rain mid-August, and that was going to help enormously with herbicide activity.
Hi guys, just a quick update from the south. I'm recording this in early September whilst growers are starting to decide on strategies and programmes for this coming autumn. Where I'm in the southwest in Exeter, we've had enough rain now to normalise the situation and allow for a more standard autumn drilling campaign to occur. In some cases, the rain has just come in time to rectify any dry seed beds that oilseed rape was drilled into, and will certainly help with the creating the right environment for the application of residual herbicides such as metazoclor in the product Sultan from Adama. Moving towards the end of September and into October, as we'll start to see winter cereals go in, and this is a time where it's important to understand and incorporate the cultural control strategies where possible in order to take a bit of pressure off of the chemistry, especially where large grassweed populations are present. So delayed drilling, stale seed beds and appropriate cultivations which are influenced by the state of the seed bank and the species of weed. There are 3 key options to implement as part of your IPM strategy. Finally, and perhaps obviously, careful selection of products and rates is key for optimising the efficacy of the programme whilst always keeping an eye on the bottom line. So know your weed populations, understand any potential resistance, and stack actives in order to combat that resistance. I hope you all have a very successful drilling campaign.
So just to give you a bit of an update on the region, things are largely similar to other parts of the country. August was a very, very dry month with very, very localised rain, but those that did get a bit of moisture early doors got some rape in the ground kind of beginning of August. And as you'll see behind me, you know, those crops have raced away and they're kind of sitting at 4-leaf stage now. But there's still some crops to go in the ground, although, you know, the vast majority of drilling is done. But, you know, with that, there's a very broad range of drill dates and a very broad range of crop stages as well. In terms of flea beetle, things were fairly quiet earlier on in the month, but as we came up to the August bank holiday, then activity picked up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with larval numbers as we go into the winter. On the slug front, again, things were fairly quiet earlier on in the month, but as we've had a bit of moisture now, then I expect activity to pick up. And especially for those later drilled crops that are newly emerging, then a timely application of slug pellets will help prevent too much grazing damage. On the cereals front, obviously drilling hasn't really kind of kicked off in a big way yet. There's quite a few fields that have been worked up for stale seed beds. So, you know, now we've had a bit of rain that helped to get a good flush of weeds before we start thinking about cereal drilling. But those that don't have grassweed issues will be starting to kind of drill from now, but you hope those that have kind of got blackgrass, ryegrass problems that they'll be holding off into October time. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with the weather and what this season throws at us.